Hello, friend, and welcome to the U-Turn podcast. This is the absolute place for you if you are ready to create a business, a career, a personal brand, or just a life that you are so proud of. And every single week, I'll be bringing you PhDs, subject matter experts, psychology practitioners, business leaders, all onto the show to elevate your success in your work and also your life, so that you can leave a legacy, you can amplify your authority, and you can really skyrocket the amount of opportunities that you are creating for yourself in your career, whether you're in corporate or you're a business owner. My name is Ashley Stahl. I'm an international best-selling author of the book U-Turn: Get Unstuck, Discover Your Direction, and Design Your Dream Career. And most importantly, I'm the CEO of Wise Whisper Agency. I'm a top 100 TEDx speaker on the internet, and it inspired me to start Wise Whisper because my company now has a completely done-for-you process to get your signature talk written and booked on stage. In fact, we've written more than 100 TEDx talks, and we've placed more than 100 clients on stage as speakers for TEDx events. And now I'm on a mission to help every change maker that I know impact millions and share their story. So right now, I'm excited to bring you right into this week's episode. All right, U-Turn friends, today I'm bringing you a treat, and it's Sydney Ryker. She is an entrepreneur, a business owner, a transformational speaker, and she's got quite a track record when it comes to creating success. And like so many people I know, she started 8 years ago, sleeping on a mattress on the floor. She went ahead and built an 8-figure sales company with more than 7,000 active customers, followed by scaling multiple other 8-figure sales organizations. And she's a spokeswoman for many leading companies. She empowers female founders through her concept of identity deconstruction. She helps them break free of societal conditioning, expectations, and she uses support in her thinking from ancient spiritual practices. You know, we love that. Her mentor, Mitch, and she guides women to rediscover their true selves, fulfillment. She's spoken on more than 100 stages. And obviously, I want to ask her all the things about sales and mindset and purpose. So without further ado, thank you so much, Sydney, for coming on the show.
Yes, I'm so excited. I've known of you for so long, and so it's such an honor to be able to be on the show.
That's so funny. Isn't it it feels like it's such a big world out there, but it's such a small world.
It's so small. Well, I remember it's so funny, your U-turn. I remember hearing you on a podcast with, was it like Ed Milet or something? It was like a big, I don't know. It was so long ago, and I always remembered you. And then when we got reconnected, I was like, it's a very small world. It's a very small world. Yes.
Well, I feel like you've got such life force energy in you to be doing what you're doing. And you can't just go achieve a lot for a long time without really being behind it. It's too hard to just do it. So can you take me back to like, not necessarily the moment of, I mean, we can go there, of like sleeping on the mattress on the floor, but the moment of when something started to work. What was happening that started working for you, Sydney?
You know what's so funny is it feels like sometimes when you're an entrepreneur, it feels like it never starts to work. It's almost like you're it's like you're making progress, right? But it's such an up and down journey that it's like you go up, you go down, you go up, you go a little less down than you did before, and then you go a little higher than you did before and a little less down. And so it's this trajectory of like things start to work, but you're almost so in it sometimes that you don't even realize it's working until you're way out the other side. And so when it started to work, I was pretty early on in my journey, probably a couple months, honestly, and I was pure life force willing it to work. I was working day in, day out. And so I don't even consider that really working. I think that was like, it was just, I'm willing my way through this. And when it really started to work was when I stopped trying to make it work as much. It was when I started to, I realized that I was, working for multiple years in multiple different industries, lots of sales. And I looked in the mirror and I didn't even know who I was, right? I had like gained a lot of material success, a lot of status, a lot of money in the companies I was a part of, but I felt like my soul was empty. And so it didn't really start to work until I went and dove into the self-discovery and the healing journey. And now it's all working and I don't even need it to be working. is kind of where I'm at now, you know?
Yeah, it's like need nothing, have everything. It's such a freaking math equation that doesn't even make sense, but it does.
Yes.
Okay, so I mean, clearly there's the mindset piece, which I want to talk to you about, and then there's also just the tactical piece, right?
Mhm.
Like, I freaking love tactical stuff. I
Me
really do.
too.
I
Me
love it
too.
when somebody's like, do these 10 things, because everything,
Yes.
there's so much in business that's an art as much as it is a science, right? And it's like, the art is the heart, the art is the pull, the art is the idea, the vision, the strategy, the thing that drops into your head. But then there's the science, and it's like people have been there before, they've done it before in their own way,
Mm.
and you can copy paste and tweak a formula and to get the same result. And so, or your own version of the result. So um, as far as clarity goes, I know you've helped a lot of people with their clarity, with their self-work. I love that we're talking about this, and I love that you've heard me on a podcast. It was probably Jenna Kutcher's podcast,
It
maybe. I don't
probably
know.
was.
I
Yeah, it was
love
a while
her.
ago.
Yeah, because I wasn't on Ed Milet's show, but I would love to
Oh,
be on his
interesting.
show. But I have a lot of friends on his show all the time. He feels hard to get to for some reason. It's not that I'm
Totally.
pursuing it. He just feels like
Totally.
he's out there, like in this, like I don't even know, like
Bubble.
the bubble. Yeah,
Yeah.
like the yeah. But as far as I talk about clarity all the time, and I love when somebody really owns that lane, because it's like, ooh, give me
Mhm.
something that you've realized. Like I've only realized what I realized about it. And
Yeah.
people always think because I've written a book, they're like, she must have so much to say. I'm like, if you've read the book, you got everything. Like I feel like that's
Yeah.
everything I think.
Totally.
But yeah, what are your thoughts on somebody who's listening right now and they're like, I have no clarity. I am so stuck.
It's it's so normal to feel that way, and I think that there's always seasons where we feel that way. The biggest piece of advice I would give, because I've been in that more recent than not, actually. I felt that I had found the lane I wanted to be in when I was so young. I was 20 years old. It was my first ever venture, and I was like, until I was about 27 or 28, I was like, this is what I'm doing for the rest of my life. And so I was so convicted in that for so long, and I felt so blessed to have that clarity. So I lived most of my life with this divine enthusiasm and clarity towards a mission. And when that was taken out of my life, or I removed it out of my life, I had absolutely no clarity. But
Mm,
what I found was that I wasn't going to find clarity by just sitting in the lack of clarity. The only way you're going to find new clarity is by taking some sort of action, and then being willing to adjust and not be married to that decision. And so
mm,
for a while, I was like, let me go explore random things that I don't even know if I've ever done or enjoy. And I did that for a little bit. And then I realized, okay, I like that. I don't like that. Okay, let me adjust. And so I
mm.
think that's the winner's mentality, right? Is not getting stuck in the lack of clarity. But the only way you become clear is by allowing yourself to play and allowing yourself to go explore and discover what's next for you, because you're changing all the time. You're evolving all the time. It's when we get married to the thing that
Yeah.
we will tend to get stuck.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Like getting so attached to who you are and what you do is such a prison when you're not ready to do it anymore
Yeah.
and you're too committed to believing it's the only way. But I also feel like there's this like in between space that is like really hard to sit in. And I've sat in it. And obviously, as a podcast, I'm always trying to help people sit in the hard parts better, right? Like,
Mhm.
might as well look good and feel a little good in the hard
Mhm.
times. So let's say, you talked about clarity and moving forward. What is your insight for people who maybe they've had a certain business for a long time? They don't want to do it anymore. It's too hard, or they don't like it, or their heart's not in it enough. They don't know what's next. And they're just sitting here listening, thinking, well, I didn't know what was next yesterday. I still don't know what's next day. I'm trying things, but none of it feels right. Um, what how can we help that hard in between feel less hard? Or at least
I've
more
been,
productive, maybe.
yeah, totally. I think for me, and again, this is kind of where the Eastern philosophies come in. I found that sometimes the more we try and force it and figure it out with our mind, the less we do. Right. And sometimes it takes just not trying to figure everything out, because we don't, there's so much that we can't control in life. We can really only control a few things. And so while that's not the answer most people want, because that's not the quick fix silver bullet, the only way I ever found what I was going to do next was by stopping trying to find it. And what I did instead was I started to face the uncomfortable feelings and emotions that would come up in my lack of clarity, right? In me wanting to control the outcome of what I was going to do next. I was I was out of it for months, just literally not sitting in my shit, but allowing myself to actually feel my emotions and feel the uncomfortability of being so terrified and scared that I didn't know the next step. And only by really going straight into those feelings and feeling my shit finally was I able to come out the other end and realize, like, it was almost like remembering what I wanted to do instead of figuring it out with my mind. It was like my soul called me into what I was supposed to do.
Yeah, it's a thing. What you're pointing out is I think a lot of people, we live in the world where we're constantly getting feedback from a young age on whether something looks fun or not. It's these breadcrumbs, these little pulls on our energy. And it's almost like because of our mindsets, we don't think that we can live this big life or be this big thing, that we see things and we see these breadcrumbs, we feel these pulls towards people and things, and we feel these expansive feelings when somebody talks about something, but we just out it right away
Yeah.
and we don't even put it in the arena with us as a possibility. So I imagine
Mhm.
somebody listening right now, maybe that opens something up for them and they're thinking, well, yeah, I do have this big idea, but I have this reason. I'm a new mother and I have this kid, or I have all these blocks. I'm getting a divorce and I don't even know where I'm going to
Mhm.
live, or whatever the stuff is. How do you get started? Like tactically, like what are some
Mhm.
things you would do if somebody's listening right now and they're like, well, there's this one big thing, but my life is really
Mhm.
chaotic. How am I going to get there? Like, what would be a couple ways that you would start to move towards it?
Yeah. So the first thing is having a courage mindset, right? So acting from a place of courage is not acting without fear present. It's acting when fear is present and doing the thing anyways. So the the mindset piece is courage. The tactical piece for me is always breaking it down. I think of the biggest goals that we have, right? Okay, I want to become a world-class speaker. I want to become one of the highest paid speakers in the world. Okay, what do you have to do that? Okay, well, first I have to get on my first stage. Okay, how can we deconstruct it all the way back? Because the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And if you look at the whole journey of what you want to do, you're going to get overwhelmed. You're going to quit before you fucking start, right?
Yeah.
So you have to literally backtrack to the next step or that you're going to take. And you could have the next 10 steps that you're going to take, but then remember, only focus on the very next one. And I think as human beings, we have to realize that our minds are still acting as if it's thousands of years ago. We're trying to survive, not thrive. So if we want to thrive, we really have to allow our brains and our souls to come back to like this moment right now. How can we just take the very next step in trusting that once we take that one, then we can take the next one, then we can take the next one. And we have to lay the groundwork before we can get to the big thing. And so a lot of people try and go accomplish writing a book when really, you just need to freaking brain dump all the things in your head first. Then you need to outline the book. Then you need to, rough draft the book. Then there's multiple processes in writing a book. You can't just go get a book out there tomorrow, right? We got to take the next step, then the next step, then the next step.
Yeah, it's so true. I love that. Okay, so it's kind of just like breaking it down, having one step thinking, don't get stuck in the huge thing that's so intimidating. Just break it down into these little tiny micro things that would need to happen, like an avalanche in the positive direction.
Mm-hmm.
Um, okay, so sales is your thing and you're so good at it, and I'm so bad at it. I'm great at storytelling. People love to hear my stories. I didn't know that
Yes, you
about
have
myself.
great stories.
Thank you. I hear
Yes, you're
that.
amazing.
But I'm not really, I'm storytelling from a place of just the story. I'm not really thinking about, I obviously when I was career coaching, right? Like you want to build your practice and have more clients or get people to be on your online program. You don't just want to be telling stories like a little enthusiast out there with
Mhm.
your cotton candy afterwards. Like, wait, where's all my customers?
Yeah.
So life is sales, right? Like I just convinced somebody, my friends in Miami, for a speaking engagement. I just told her, you have to go to this restaurant and get truffle pasta. So it's like, I just ordered them on truffle pasta, but
Yes.
I guess that's easier for me. But
Mhm.
I just hired somebody in my company to do sales for us, and it has been whew, such a powerful thing that we could hire. Like this,
Yeah.
I know that there's experts out there, but I'm new to having somebody that's not me sell offers
Mhm.
in my company.
Yeah.
And I already knew I wasn't the best at sales. Like, I'm not bad at all. I'm interesting. I'm whatever. But I don't have any of the psychological training, how to serve the person listening. When do you push? When do you pull back? When do you ask questions? When is it too much?
Mhm.
Do you take money on the phone? Do you not? Like, who are you in sales,
Mhm.
right? So this woman, she is a spiritual woman. She's very Christian, and her heart is just like through the roof with the spirituality of when clients come in. Like when
Mm,
somebody comes in for a keynote, for a book ghostwrite with us, for a TEDx with us,
mhm,
she is like in the godly energy of like they are here and it is magical. And her sales,
mm.
it's so true. She's so true
Yeah.
that people are signing up for us left, right, and center. Our agency is growing so fast. And I'm so thankful for her. And before her, we had all these leads coming in and we didn't really, I
Wow.
had all sorts of different people trying to take the calls and they weren't me. So I want to take it back to anybody listening right now where I don't know, a lot of people say like, oh, I don't want to overprice myself or I don't want to da 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 da. Can you take me into a little micro, like if you could only tell us 3 or 4 things about sales that we really need to freaking get? Like, what are the 3 or 4 things?
Yes. Oh my God, there's so much.
I know.
Um, so first of all, I love this story because I think that would be one of my first points is, there's an art and a science to sales, right? And so this woman clearly has a skill set and she also has the art down, right? Where I believe that the thing that makes great salespeople and the reason most people that are, it's the people who have the offer and it's their company are the best at sales usually until there's a point where they're not, right? Is because of their enthusiasm and their passion. Nothing beats enthusiasm and passion in what you're selling. And so if you cannot get convicted about your own offer, you cannot sustain it, right? Like in the beginning, you talked about success over a long period of time is very difficult to sustain if you're not lit up by it. And maybe, one of my gifts is enthusiasm in life. That's like one of my blessings in my life. But if you can't get lit up and enthusiastic about what you're selling, you're never going to be able to sell it. And so that's the number one thing. Like, check yourself. Do you actually give a shit about
Yeah.
what you are talking about every single day? Because I've been in places where I don't, and it's like pulling teeth. And so you've got to get yourself to a place to get competent in sales. You got to make sure it's something you actually love. And it's a lot of the people that we used to place in our agencies, right? We would place them in offers, but it was like the people who did the best were the ones who were so passionate about the
Right.
offer, the ones who were so lit up about what they were doing, because your energy is everything. And if you can go into a sales call and bring in the skill set, but also bring in the spiritual piece of it of, oh my gosh, this is such a divine orchestration, the amazingness of being able to sit with this person, help them achieve their goals, right? Bringing that enthusiasm is everything, and people are going to feel that. So the number one thing is enthusiasm. The second thing is that's coming right now is with objection handling, right? A lot of people get afraid of objections, and I think objection handling is the most important piece of sales because objections are going to come no matter what you're doing in sales. They're always going to be objections. That doesn't mean it's bad. Objections are actually really great. They're an opportunity for you to stand with that person and say, how can we overcome this objection together? The reason a lot of people can't objection handle is because they feel it's them against the person, right? It's me against you. You're not I can't help you handle this objection. It's, your husband, your money, your whatever. You have to stand on the same side of the bench with them and say, hey, I'm going to help you overcome this objection and we're going to do it together. And also with objections, the biggest thing people don't do is they take everything that person says at face value. So the person says, oh, I just don't have the money. And you're like, oh, okay. And you take that at face value. Instead, what you can do, you can actually affirm what they're saying. Okay, so what it sounds like is the money isn't feeling like an issue for you. Is that right? And they'll say yes. And usually they'll keep talking. And they'll say, well, yeah, it's the money, but it's also, I'm just a little bit nervous about the deliverables. Okay, so what I'm hearing you say is you're a little bit nervous about the money and then the deliverables. Is that right? And then they continue to open up to you and you continue to ask questions. You get curious, you ask questions, you dig a layer deeper, layer deeper, layer deeper, just like you did in discovery. But then you realize within that objection is the actual root of the objection. And it's never the thing that they started with. And so when you can come from that stance of objection handling with them and helping them cross that line, you're going to get to the root of the problem. And that's going to help you not even have objections at the end of the call. And then you're going to be ready to take their money and collect it on the call. Right.
Wow.
So those would be a few. What I'll say, last thing.
Yeah.
Never let them get off the phone. If you've objection handled with them, do not trust that they are going to come back later and give you their credit card and come back on the phone with you. These are human beings. We're human beings. We trust people, but it's like in sales, you don't do that. You will lose so many deals that way. And it's doing them a disservice because you just went through this whole transformation process with them. And then you're letting them off the hook on the transformation you just helped them have. And that's you doing a disservice to them. So that's something else I would say about sales.
I love that. I want to start with the enthusiasm piece and then kind of unpack these with you, because enthusiasm, I mean, look, you're an entrepreneur like me. I have ADHD for real. If you think I have it, you should meet my dad. He's like fully diagnosed and in the best
Really?
way. He's like, but he's
It's a gift.
amazing. Yeah, I mean,
It's a
the
gift.
guy is probably 20 pounds lighter than he should be because he just stands and he moves while he stands. Like he is a walking form of exercise. Like
Yes.
this man. And it's his birthday today, actually. He's 81
Cute.
today.
Happy
Yeah.
birthday, Dad.
Yeah, happy birthday, Al.
Oh, that's my dad's name.
No
Funny.
way.
Yes.
Maybe these Als are having these like
Funny.
daughters that just want to
Are
help people
amazing.
with clarity and like, you know, I mean, one is better than silver good. But yeah, so okay, enthusiasm. My ADHD, my entrepreneur inside, I'm always up to something different. I'm always craving something different. And one of the biggest things that we talked about from the beginning is sustainability. It is natural that what you're on fire about right now, what you're building right now, that you're going to be on fire and building. But then you're not going to be as into it maybe in a year or two, but you still have a thing that you
Yeah.
built.
Yes.
And so can you give me a little more nuance around enthusiasm? Because I imagine you're going to be super alive about something and then your energy is going to move.
Yeah.
And there's probably a lot of entrepreneurs where now they have a team, right? Like maybe there's somebody right now, she's a makeup artist and she's like, I absolutely love it. But maybe in 2 years, if we call her, she's like, I'm tired. I can't do more makeup. I
Yeah.
don't have the enthusiasm.
Yes.
What would you say about how she can build what she has, honor what she has? Because there's too many entrepreneurs like blowing up what they're doing and disrespecting all this magic they just
Yeah.
made for themselves and for the world. So how do you start to think
Yeah.
about a lack of enthusiasm in the business owner?
Mhm.
And how do you find a salesperson that has enthusiasm for the sale and
Yep.
the offer?
There's two pieces to this that I love. I love that we're diving deeper. So the first thing is obviously outsource, which I'll come back to.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, at some point in your journey, your business will stop being about how it serves you, and it has to become about how you can serve people. And that usually is not followed by a lot of enthusiasm because it's selfless service. Selfless service is not always fun. It's selfless. Like it has nothing to do with you. And so I've realized that when I start to lose enthusiasm in something, I have to check myself and say, okay, well, am I serving people? Because I came into this to serve other people. And at some point in life, when you make enough money, when you get all the things that you desire, when you get the love and it becomes about how can you serve other people. And so it's your duty and your responsibility to show up with enthusiasm and get yourself into a place where you remember and remind yourself of why you started. And that's why staying connected, that why is so important. And so it becomes about service. Now, when you get to the place where you're like Ashley, where you can bring somebody on, it is now, if you cannot get excited about it, but you want to keep this going so you can serve the people you originally set out to serve, then it's your job to replace yourself with the best quality candidate. To source and to find someone, you can start with your network, you can start with job postings and get really clear about what you do on those calls that makes you successful, and then put that into a job description and source that person, right? Attract that person, post it everywhere, share with everyone you're looking for the best candidate. There's job posting sites everywhere. There's Instagram, there's social media. You interview the candidates, you interview them hard, right? And you scare them away a little bit, and the right one will stick and the right one will want to work with you. If you need more support on recruiting and hiring, reach out. I can support you. I can help you for free. It's something that I love to do, but it's hiring is the next level that might even get you excited again. Like hiring someone to take this off your plate. How exciting would that be? How great would that feel? Right? If you can get enthusiastic about that, then great. And when you can bring that person on and train them up, just like you're experiencing so much liberation within your business now because you're not having to sell anymore and you have somebody else that's probably even more enthusiastic than you. And I can guarantee that makes you more enthusiastic about the business again.
I love that so much. And I think a lot of people have a lot of, I know, like a sense of intimidation of building something bigger because we have a lot of beliefs. I feel like a lot of people have a lot of beliefs about falling in love, right? Like there's commitment phobia, and it's like, if they could just fill in the blank and give us some insight in their belief system. If I said, if I fall in love, I will lose, fill in the blank, right? Like, and if you ask anyone who has commitment stuff, which a lot of us do, right? It'll be like, I will lose my freedom. I will lose my whatever. And I think that's the same thing with business. If I pursue this, I will lose. Maybe it's my reputation, right? People are scared you're going to be looking stupid online or whatever. And so it's interesting because I think a lot of people have so much resistance to growing bigger. And I think a lot of those are mirrored back to us in our sales objections, which is what you talked
Yes.
about. So, okay, my company, our offers start at like 15K. We don't even offer anything less.
Yeah.
And our books, we have ghostwriters who have written some of the best books of our time, millions of copies sold,
Wow.
writing books. And these ghostwriters are not cheap. Like we are paying
No.
all the dinero to all the
It's a
talent
lot. It's a lot of
all day
money.
long.
Yeah.
Yeah. And because I had this realization where I was like, why would I build a business where I'm a commodity when I could be the freaking best? So our speech writing house, I'm like, I guess any business owner should think what they're doing is great, but I'm like, no, I'm an excellent writer and these people are better. And I'm so proud that I've recruited people who are better than me at what I know how to do best. That
Yeah.
feels crazy inside.
Yes.
And so I think a lot of people have beliefs like they can't stand behind what they're offering because they start to question themselves, imposter syndrome, da 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 da. So if we could enter into a sales conversation right now and we could pretend for everybody, not necessarily like, us ad hocing it, but what is the flow in your case of a sales conversation? How should it begin? What are some of those starting points? Because I think anytime we can give somebody a lift off point, they can run with it. How would you just advise somebody listening right now? Let's say they want to become more high ticket, right? Their coaching's 5K, they want it to be 20. Obviously, we don't want to up our prices indiscriminately and feel like shit on the phone being like, this is my price. And then we feel really
Yeah.
bad. You need to feel good about it. So let's say they're behind it. They know that this
Mm-hmm.
is their right move. This is where they're at. How do they start that conversation?
Yeah. So if you feel like you're already in the place where you are like, okay, I do need to up my prices. I realize the value that I bring. There's the location of the person when you get on the phone with them. There's the dream outcome of where they want to be. And there's the gap in between. And the gap is how are we going to get them there? And so the job of you on the phone is to get clear with them. Where are you now? Where would you like to be? And what is standing in the way? And the journey of the sales call and the purpose of the sales call is we call close the gap. How can we close the gap? With either helping them overcome objections before the objections even arise, right? By asking the right questions, or helping them build their belief in some way, or the most obvious is with your support, right?
Mm-hmm.
How does your service close the gap? And the best of the best in the sales space are able to build the gap. You want to build the gap so that, because a lot of them are subconsciously aware. They're not consciously aware that there's this gap and that it's painful for them. And so you have to create. It's not false gap. It's a real gap. You're just bringing it to their conscious mind. So it's, hey, where are you right now? How asking questions to identify where they're at. And where would you like to be? What's the vision that you have for your life, right? What would that do for you? What would it do if you don't? What happens in 5 years if you don't do that? Cost of inaction. What's the cost of you not taking action today, right? Helping build that gap. And then it's, okay, well, based on what I'm hearing from you, you repeat back to them, this is where you're at. This is where you want to be. This is what's standing in the way. You repeat exactly what they've said so that they feel heard, seen, and understood. We seek first to understand rather than to be understood. Then we can seek to be understood. And then we go into proposing how we can help them close that gap and get them from where they are to where they want to be. And that's the essence of the call, right? It's those 3 steps, closing the gap and then sharing them the pitch and then asking for the card.
Okay, so you talked about the money objection, and I feel like a lot of people feel like they're like preparing to give bad news when they say their
Oh,
price.
totally.
Like,
Totally.
oh, we're getting to the part, and it's like, oh.
Yep.
So what is your feedback for that moment where well, first of all, how do you pivot from hearing about the client because there's to sharing about your services? Like obviously you're on a sales call for the services. But I think a lot of people, they hear about the client and then there's this tipping point in the convo where it's like, all right, want me to tell you about my thing? Do you want to buy my thing? Like that's
Yeah.
the thing, right?
Yeah.
So how does it move over there? I'm listening to myself talk. I'm like, wow, this is not my expertise and I love that it's yours. So yeah, patch me in. Like where do you go from there?
So what I like to do is you have to understand that there's a lot of people that think they're good at sales and they're just not good at sales, right? And I hate to say that, but sales is very difficult to be real. It's like being a good writer, right? To be a ghostwriter and you have to be excellent. right? It's very hard to become excellent. There's not a lot of excellent people at what they do. And so sales, you have to be very diligent and very, very good to get really good. But to transition, first of all, any objection that you're getting is one you haven't currently overcome. So you got to look in the mirror. If you have a money objection, go read Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker. It's going to change a lot for you. But what you can do is be very clear in your communication. You have to be very clear about why you're even on that call in the first place. So before you get to the tipping point, right, where you're going from learning about them to the pitch, is at the beginning of the call. You have to present at the beginning of the call, hey, the purpose of this call is to really learn all about where you're at, where you want to be, and what's in the way of you getting there. And then what I'd love to do at the end is share how we might be able to help you and help you close that gap. Does that feel good for you? Yeah. Okay, great. They're very clear after that at the end, after you learn about them, you are going to be pitching them something. And so then at the end, when you learn about them, okay, this is what I'm hearing from you. Is that all correct? Does it sound like I have a really good sense of what you're here to do? Do you mind if I share with you how I think that we can help you? And they say yes. And then you say, okay, great. So based on this, I think that our program, this is going to give you X result. You want to focus on the result, not the deliverables. You want to sell the destination, not the plane. You don't want to say, hey, so I think our program XYZ, here are the deliverables. This is everything you're going to get. If you cannot even get into deliverables, it's like, hey, with conviction and confidence, our program XYZ is going to be the best way for you to get that TEDx stage. Okay. We're going to help you with writing the talk. We're going to help you with practicing the talk. We're going to help you with landing the actual talk. And we are going to prep you to get on stage and rock it and get 1 million views and blah, 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 blah. Casting that vision so that you can get a book deal, so that you can have more freedom to spend time with your family, so you can be that dad that you said you always wanted to be, and you cast the vision. Does this feel like something that would be really aligned and exciting for you? Yes. Okay, awesome. Let's do it. Right? It's suggestive. Let's do it.
Okay.
That's it.
Love it. And then from there, you say the price, like, or do you let them ask you? I feel like everybody listening who is not a salesperson is like, where the hell do,
Yes. So then you can say, it's either 4 payments of $22.22, or it's 1 payment of $10,000 or $15,000, whatever. Which one's best for you?
Yeah.
And they say, okay, okay, gosh, oh gosh, I don't know. That's like a lot more than I was expecting. You can say, okay, like, let's unpack this. What were you expecting?
Woof.
You know, what were you expecting?
Sydney.
You have to be very direct and not be scared.
Anxiety.
I know, but here's the deal. The more you do it and the more you force yourself to ask the uncomfortable questions and you hold that frame throughout the call, you're the boss on this call. You're driving this ship. And you have to have that mentality of you are the one that's going to get them this result. And when you have pure confidence in that, it becomes so much easier. You got to keep that in the back of your mind. I know that I can get them this result. So I'm going to ask the audacious questions so that I can actually help them transform on this call.
Yeah. I love it. You're so no nonsense. You're just like, let's go. That makes me shake in my damn boots. Like I'm listening to you. I don't even know where that expression comes from. I rarely wear boots, but I'm just like, okay. Yeah. It's so weird. My parents are like, Ashley, you're so bold, but I'm hearing you.
You're so bold.
You are so bold. Like, so good. Okay. So when you start to unpack it, where can that go? Because I can imagine people are fumbling and bumbling. That price feels too high. Where you sound like, I mean, even your energy here on this podcast, you're holding the space, holding the container. How do you keep holding that? How do you keep directing it forward when they're fumbling and bumbling? Do you let them fumble and bumble around?
Yeah, because usually what happens when they fumble and bumble is they fumble themselves into saying, oh, let's do it. But you have to keep the frame of not matching their energy. You have to hold your energy, right? And say, I'm not going to change because you are freaking out.
Yeah.
I'm going to remain calm. And I'm going to know that if you make this choice, you will be transformed forever. I am holding that vision for you until you can hold it for yourself. And that's what true sales pros do. And so when they start to fumble and bumble, all you do is say, hey, no worries. Let's unpack this together, right? We're on the same side of the bench. I'm here to help. And I say this to people, I'm here to help you transform. I'm not here to let you get off the phone and keep playing small in your life, Susie. I'm here to help you have a transformation. And whatever I need to do to support you in that, I'm going to do. So let's unpack this. Why is that price freaking you out? And she's going to be like, well, I thought it's past my credit limit and da, da, da. Okay. Why, get curious. You go all the way back to discovery. And so it depends on what they're obviously saying to you. So if you have anything you want me to like kind of
Yeah,
overcome
so
that you
let's
hear a
say
lot.
she's like, I don't have the money, my rent is due. Like, I don't, because I'm always very from an integrity perspective. I don't want people to sign up with me if it really puts them out in a situation, no matter what I'm selling. But even
Right.
if what I'm selling is eventually going to get them what they want, I'm like, it sounds like you need to put food in your mouth today. Like, I don't want to take that away from you.
And there's some people who are actually in that situation. And if they're like, I'm in 40K of debt, and it's like it's literally might not be a good fit for them. Right. If I'm going to put you in a worse financial situation, however, is what you said you wanted at the beginning of the call, which was to get out of debt and to be there for your family and XYZ. When you told me that, were you serious or were you just kidding around? And she's like, no, I was serious. Okay. So here's the deal. You can either be in 40K of debt and say no to this today and have no plan moving forward and still be in 40K of debt. Or you could be in 55K of debt and you could actually have a plan moving forward to get you out of that 55K in debt way faster than you were going to before. And you'll have a book and you'll have a TEDx talk and you'll have all of these things to actually put you in a position long-term where you can be in a completely different financial situation where if you keep going down the same path, you know where you're going to go. And it's where you're continuing to go right now. Right. So it's always loop back to their vision. However, if you have options, if you have funding options, if you have, what are those called? Where you, I can't think of the word.
Lenders?
Yeah, exactly. Like a lot of bigger companies, a lot of the companies I work with, they have financial teams where you send them and then they can fund, a loan, whatever. If you have options like that, if you have payment plans for people, right? At the very least, take something down. Again, if people are like, I am absolutely broke, you can also say, okay, how much do you have in your bank account right now?
Oh my
And
God,
honestly, I've had people say, oh, I actually have like 30 grand in my bank. Okay, so you're not broke. You have 30 grand. This is just a fear that's coming up for you. And they're like, oh yeah, actually it is. Okay, cool. So let's do it. And literally I will do that with so many, and okay. They just like felt scared. It's not the actual thing. So it's kind of being willing to ask those audacious questions, right?
Yeah, wow. Salespeople are more like therapists than I even realized.
Totally.
Wow.
But it's fun when you can actually see it through and feel the uncomfortableness of these situations once or twice or 3 times, and the person comes out the other side, and then a month later they have a massive result, and then they're like, thank you so much, I'm out of debt, I'm finally better with my family. All these results that they got, that will become so worth it for you that you will always be willing to stand in the fire of transformation for people to help them step into the next version of themselves, and you'll realize it's actually helping them, not hurting them.
Yeah, that's the real belief I think that hold people back is they don't want to take from people. They don't want to hurt people. I think so many innately good people have that belief system with sales. But at the end of the day, if somebody is applying to talk to you, it's because they want something that you are offering and it's important for them. And that's why they're setting aside the time. So bringing it back to that. Okay. You have so many different magic things that you do when it comes to mindset, leadership, recruitment, sales. What is the thing that most people lean in the most with you when you tell them how to do it, that it's like game changer?
Ooh, in what sense?
I don't know. It could be anything, leadership, management. Like lately, I've been thinking a lot about recruitment and I have a lot of thoughts about it. And I was just in a mastermind group yesterday and everybody was leaning in. And I was like, I don't know if what I'm saying sounds stupid or not, but it's really helped me. And I got such lean in there. So that's what I'm curious about for you. Like, where are you feeling people really click into you where it's like they're thirsty for what you're saying and it's providing that big zone of genius transfer from you to them?
Gosh, I mean, there's so many things. Recruiting is a huge one for me because
Yeah.
I'm so convicted. So maybe, I mean, oh God, there's so much.
I know. It's almost like my ADHD is like, where do you live? Like, why haven't I seen you around?
I'm actually I'm in LA right now.
Okay.
But there's so many different things. I'm a very like polymath. I love so many different things. I think the thing that a lot of people are resonating a ton with is the concept of identity deconstruction that I talk about, because it fits into so many different buckets of leadership and how we show up in life. And so I'll give a little background.
Yeah, tell me.
I kind of left sales and recruiting for a year this last year. And I'm in it still, but it's like I left it and I completely like went off the grid for the last year. And I found my way to a spiritual advisor, if you will. And I started to just really like literally deconstruct my identity. And what that looks like is I was so self-conscious all the time. I felt like I had to be beautiful to be successful, all these false beliefs. And one of the biggest ones I had was around being a beautiful woman. And what that looked like was me getting Botox, filler, dyeing my hair all the time, blonde, extensions, like losing weight, taking things to lose weight, just going to the extremes for years so that I felt worthy and lovable and good enough and all the things. And I got to the place where, again, like I said, I looked in the mirror, I had all this success, I had the love, I had all these things, and it still wasn't enough. And I was still miserable.
Mm.
And it wasn't, and I see so many people unhappy in their businesses, feeling like once I get this, I will be happy. Once I get the business, and it doesn't lead to happiness. It's just this hollow quest. And so I went on this journey of deconstructing that identity and like literally peeling off all of the masks until I was left with nothing in the tank. It was just like I felt like a shell of myself, right?
Yeah.
Rock bottom. But it was when I was willing to do that work that I've been able to now reconstruct my identity into someone that I'm proud of and that I'm happy to be and that I love being and is a good person to other people and all these things. But what that's allowed me to do is to build a solid foundation in my leadership, to build a solid foundation that's not something that's built on sandy or rocky foundation. It's a solid foundation that I've built upon to be able to show up authentically on calls like this and not be worried about how I look or how I sound or self-conscious about any of those things, where I can really come from a place of that selfless service, right? Or in the ancient lineages, they call it like seva, selfless service. And now I feel like I can finally be reemerging in life as the person that I'm meant to be, right? The actual person I'm meant to be, instead of this show of who I thought I had to be to achieve success or to get the love I was looking for. And so for anybody listening, the things that I have resonated a lot with people is that it's like they feel those emotions of feeling like a fraud or feeling unworthy or feeling unhappy despite having all of the things they thought that they wanted, right? And it's only when we're willing to deconstruct our identities and let the false beliefs go that we can really step into who we're meant to be. And that's the only time you're really going to have success of the soul, right? Which is fulfillment and peace and joy and happiness, which will lead to material success, and you will have it all and you won't need any of it.
Yeah, I really just like love that so much. And I feel like when you're in your 20s, especially, and you're just like struggling to start building your life and figure out what you're meant to do. And if you're in a job you don't like and you're like staring at the clock, praying for it to be 5 so you could go see your friend, and then you do it all over, lather, rinse, repeat. It can feel like such a clusterfuck. And I feel like when I was at that point in my life, I was working at an ad agency for my first job before I made my way into the Pentagon. And I remember just being like, what is the point of all this? Like straight up Friedrich
Totally.
Nietzsche, God is dead,
Esoteric, yes.
existentialism, Unit 5, junior year of college. Like that was me. And so I'm just thinking to myself, I'm like, God, there's people thinking about that. And they're hearing us on this show being like, you don't need anything. And they're like, what are you talking about? Everything sucks, And I get it. Like I've actually really been there. And so you're speaking from a frequency of pursuit and purpose that a lot of people don't necessarily choose to like scratch that itch.
Right.
And so before we go, like what would be the one thing you would want to say to someone who hasn't even started the quest of the soul to even realize that they will, if they follow, you know what I mean? Like the message of like, you have it all if you don't need it all. They're like, I can't even pay my bill or groceries. Like I have nothing. Everything sucks. I just want to get that person one level up from there so they can get closer to their heart. Like what would you say is the thought for them?
Most people, including myself, will literally avoid that feeling. Maybe that twinge. It might even be a twinge. I didn't even know I had the feeling that I wanted to go on because I didn't want to go on this transformation. I was pushed into a situation where I was so miserable that I had to change something. And that's most people. You will get to the rock bottom where it's like, I have nowhere to go but to feel this feeling, or I'm going to become a shell of myself.
Yeah.
And so my invitation to anybody who hasn't even started on that quest, don't force it, but be aware that if you're willing and able to let it in, and you open yourself up to just being aware of it and knowing, oh, there is a different way to live life. There's a way that doesn't have me scrolling on social media and feeling insecure about myself, or feeling like I have all this success and none of it even fucking matters, right? Because I'm not even happy. There is another way. I think that's the awareness of the fact that there is another way. And it may feel like a 2 steps backwards to take 10 steps forwards. But if you can lean into it, not everyone does. If you can lean into it and you're willing to, again, burn in that fire of transformation, you will experience a life that is so liberated compared to what you're currently living in. It will literally rock your world in the best way possible. And that might be scary, but take it from me, from a person who was so asleep for so many years, raised up in Montana. There was nothing beyond just the 3D reality, right? I am so grateful every single day. I could cry right now that I decided to take that uncomfortable step and just choose to feel my emotions and look at life through the positive and go, right? And literally like let the fuck go and let God, whatever. I'm so grateful that I did. And so if you're in that place where you feel like your heart is shut down or whatever, just be aware that there is another way. And if you're ever ready to explore what that is, go into the emotion and start feeling. The more you can feel, the more you'll get connected, and the more it'll reveal who you are supposed to be. It all starts in the emotion, which is the thing we avoid. But it's the fastest and easiest way to get out the other side and live a completely different life.
I hope everybody just like really landed into that. And I love how I can feel your heart of service. It's so funny. I remember like speaking of when we were younger and we like didn't figure things out, or not to imply that being young means you don't, but for me it did. And it's like, I remember people used to say things like selling is serving. And honestly, I was like, screw that. Like selling is you making money, and I don't know who I am right now. Like that, you know? Totally. And so it was like this flood of entrepreneurs being like, selling is service. And it's like, it is, but sometimes it's not. And the market is kind of crazy, right? Like you got to watch your back. You got to find the right people. You don't have to be scared. You just need to be smart. Right.
Yes. Yeah.
So I can hear your service in you. Where can everybody find you or keep learning from you? Where's the spot?
Instagram, Sydney Ryker, TikTok, Sydney Ryker, and my website, Sydney Ryker. And then it's just basically my name anywhere. There's not a lot of Sydney Rykers, so you should be able to find me. And I love to hear how any of this landed for you guys. So reach out. I literally have nothing to sell you right now. I'm just speaking on stages and writing books. So I'm literally just here to help people. So if you have any questions, if you are feeling deep inside of your soul that there's something more that you need to explore, I can always connect you with my mentor. I'm happy to do that as well. He's changed my life as well as many others. So that's where I'm at, and that's how people can find me.
Thanks again, Sydney, for coming on.
Thank you. You're amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for tuning in to the U-Turn podcast. I hope you learned so much in this episode and you're putting it into action today. We would love to hear from you. Slide into my DMs at Ashley Stahl or leave a written review if you're inspired. It would mean so much to us. Be sure to subscribe to the show because, as you know, the more subscribers we get, the better the guests we can bring you. And in the meantime, if you're looking to skyrocket your personal brand and impact millions, head on over to wisewhisperagency.com to learn more about how we are getting clients booked for the TEDx stage.